gaining momentum. Here are today's top lines.
Many African Americans have been brainwashed into not being open-minded.
Look, I like Herman Cain. He had no clue about foreign affairs.
I could not support Rick Perry as the nominee for a host of reasons.
That's Sarah Palin, wearing what appeared to be a vest made from the pelt of a cookie monster she shot from a helicopter.
I don't think you have a heart. I probably chose a poor word to explain that. I was probably a bit over-passionate by using that word, and it was inappropriate.
Yes, because conservatives and liberals, all Americans have hearts. It's just that there's no room in there for immigrants because the ventricles are already filled with nacho cheese.
But Rush, are you saying that Christie is not a conservative?
And if I remember from my freshman dorm orientation correctly, no means no.
President Reagan quoted these words of John Winthrop in a speech that he gave in 1974. They're taken from the Sermon on the Mount in the book of Matthew.
It's the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and that means just about now, somewhere out on the campaign trail, Republican presidential candidate Michelle Obama is mispronouncing Rosh Hashanah.
Because I think the scripture really teaches, when you look at the submission issue, that husbands are supposed to lay their life down for their wife.
So the clock is ticking. Is Herman Cain truly a viable candidate for president? And how's it going to be for Governor Christie? Are you in or are you out? For more on this and other 2012 topics, I'm joined now by MSNBC political analyst Pat Buchanan. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, Martin.
And Shira Toeplitz, political reporter for Roll Call. Both are in Washington. Thank you for joining us. Shira, I want to start with you. In a rally today, Michelle Bachmann had a curious thing to say about the president. It didn't make today's top lines, but just listen to this.
You want to know why we have an Arab Spring? Barack Obama has laid the table for an Arab Spring by demonstrating weakness from the United States of America.
So in Ms. Bachmann's mind, does the overthrow of brutal dictatorships in Tunisia, Egypt and Libya, I guess that's a bad thing, is it, in her view?
You know, she's certainly making it sound that way. We all know Michelle Bachmann isn't exactly the most articulate presidential candidate on the Republican side right now. And it really is, she's muffling a lot of words, and I think she's kind of distorting some of the facts here. But, you know, she has a history of doing these things and then going back and revising her statement.
Pat, does she even know what she's talking about when she refers to the Arab Spring?
Oh, I think she knows what's happened over there. I think what she's implying, and it's not altogether inaccurate, Martin, if she's saying that, look, the Arab Spring overthrew some dictators who've done some terrible things like Mubarak, but we don't know what comes after, and we don't know what's going to happen in Libya after Gaddafi.
Pat, she didn't say that, though.
Well, yeah, but we didn't get a lot of details from you about what she expanded upon. She just indicated that the Arab Spring, I think, was ignited by Barack Obama when he indicated sort of weakness in support of Israel. I don't think that's accurate at all, Martin.
Well, in fact, I thought the accusation of the president's weakness was after the Arab Spring, indeed, particularly during the UN General Assembly last week.
Well, I thought the president last week, I will say this, at the UN, I thought he was too one-sided. I mean, I understand what he laid down, how Israel has suffered, but I thought he did not address the suffering of the Palestinians for 63 years or 64 years, their lack of statehood, what they have undergone. Some terrible things have been done by the PLO and those organizations. But I think if the United States is not even-handed in this, we cannot be the party or the broker that brings peace.
Indeed. You and your colleagues on Morning Joe, Pat, have been virtually begging Chris Christie to enter the race. So first, what does that tell us about your view of the current crop of candidates, and why do you think Mr. Christie is the great white hope?
First, I have not argued for Mr. Christie's entry. I don't think he should get in, and I'll tell you why in a second. I can understand why people are attracted to him. He's decisive, he's tough, he's rough-edged, he's got a certain rough charisma. He's the utter opposite of Barack Obama, who, of course, as you remember, I mean, he voted present 100 times in the state legislature. Whatever that is, it's not Chris Christie. Why shouldn't he get in? because he doesn't have the heart and soul for it right now. And I think in his heart, he doesn't believe he's got the requisite knowledge, experience, background to deal with issues like the Arab Spring, like Pakistan and nuclear weapons, like the Taliban, and, you know, and some of these trade IMF issues. I mean, he's about 24 months out of being a prosecutor in New Jersey, and I think he understands his tremendous strengths, but also his limitations as a presidential candidate.
Indeed.
He doesn't want to do what Fred Thompson did.
Indeed. Shira, Sarah Palin has described Herman Cain as being the flavor of the week. And she's right, isn't she? I mean, he stands as much chance of winning the Republican nomination as Newt Gingrich.
You know, I do think you're right. I don't think he's going to win the nomination in that case at all. Sure, he's had a great week. He won that straw poll in Florida. It's been a pretty strong week for him. But then he took this momentum and he goes on and he accuses Barack Obama of brainwashing African Americans. And I think it's those kinds of controversial statements that don't really make him sound like a future Republican nominee for president.
And what do you think of him saying that black voters have been brainwashed into not being open-minded and not even considering, as he put it, a conservative point of view?
Well, let me say that. Let me talk to that. John McCain got the same share of the African-American vote as David Duke got running for governor of Louisiana. Anybody think John McCain is a racist or an ex-Klansman? That's ridiculous. I do believe this, Martin. I think the African-American community has embraced Great Society liberalism, which has proved devastating for the African-American family. 71% of African-American kids are born out of wedlock. Half of them drop out of high school. I think the whole welfare state mentality, I think, has been deeply devastating to all of America, especially including the African-American community. And I wish and I admire Herman Cain for standing up and going against, if you will, the conventional wisdom and being a tough African-American businessman who succeeded in a tough world. And I admire his victory there in Florida.
Brainwashed? That's a fairly strong term.
I think what he's saying is they bought an awful lot of liberal propaganda on the liberal plantation, and I think he's right.
On the liberal plantation. Wow.
That's
Pat
right.
Buchanan and Shira Toeplitz, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Martin.
And one
Thank
more
you.
political note. While Governor Chris Christie